Hello friends, good afternoon, good evening and good morning once again, depending what part of the world you're joining this live session from, and goes without saying, our mentor, your favorite god of opening, Boris Sabruk. And guys, it's been wonderful the way things are shaping up. A lot of good feedback coming in, a lot of engagement in the session and after the session, a lot of questions pouring in for our own Grandmaster. So, and of course, there's a slight aberration. We are going to still continue with Bishop C4, Bishop C5, old-fashioned lines as we did last time, as per the Grandmaster's inputs. So without taking too much time, because time is money and we still have a lot to cover, I'll hand over the stage for the day to Boris. Have a good session, and I'm here for any time if you require my help. Thank you.
Hi, hello everyone. Good evening for most of you, good day for some other parts of the world. So today we are going to continue with our Italian topic, one of the most popular openings now, not only at the expert level, but also at the top level. So the official topic is old-fashioned Italian lines. That means slow Italian with C3, D3, Bishop B3. But we need still to catch up with the sidelines that not fully covered during the previous class. So we'll go right away to the class. So we are talking about Bishop C5 system, and sidelines that we still haven't covered is this variation with D4. So D4, ED4, CD4, and Bishop B4 check. And during the previous class, we covered Knight C3 only. But definitely that's not the most popular move, and we have Bishop D2 as well as Knight D2. So I want to take a few words about Knight D2. It's a pawn sacrifice. It's a pawn sacrifice, and we should, well, it's not that we should accept the pawn, because the potentially solid alternative can be D5. I think this play is very reasonable for black. Castle, solid position. I even couldn't make for sure what is the main line here for white. White have been trying different moves like Knight B3, Knight A5, but it seems like A3 like top choice statistically. And now besides Bishop E7, which is probably also pretty solid, black can play very aggressive, Bishop D2, and just Bishop G4. And I don't see anything wrong with black position. It looks very solid. Bishop pair is pretty irrelevant right now. We have a very strong outpost on D5. It's probably about equal. So that's one line. Now, but I want to discuss the more critical Knight A4. After Knight A4, we have D5. So that's, as far as I understand, the main point. D5 is the main point. After castle, I think black is able to neutralize white's initiative by capturing Knight D2, let's say Bishop D2, Queen D2, and very important move, Knight E7, because like the immediate D5 would run into Bishop B5, while after castle there is this main idea of D5. But the big difference is that Knight E7 is possible in this position, and probably black is doing just better, in my opinion. I have some line here which is probably critical, which is like Rook E1. So, and we play D5 because after castle there is Queen G5 with some initiative. So I have D5 move. So obviously it goes without saying if he just retreats. So we just pawn up. Therefore, there is this interesting idea: Bishop D5, Queen D5, Rook E5. So white is able probably to maintain some kind of equality here, but not really pretending for any advantage. So we have this type of play: Rook E7, Bishop E6, and then Queen G5. I think, if I remember correctly, it's kind of like maintains equality thanks to this move, but still probably black can give a shot and play for win if with move like rook f8, slightly better endgame for black after queen d6, cd6, rook b7, and bishop a2, because I think like bishop is a little bit stronger in this type of position, but should be draw here. So that's what we discussed. Castle, it's slightly inaccurate, so the whole idea is d5. So after d5, we play the most natural knight e7, castle, knight takes d2, very logical. White has a lot of space, so we can of course play something like knight f6, but I think white will have a rich compensation starting with queen b3. It's a lot of space. Like if we take on d2, there will be bishop pair, so it's more of positional advantage. Like definitely not those lines where white can crush black after some mistake in the opening, but it's rather playing more positional approach here. So after knight d2, I think the most simple knight d2, and now there are two options. The main move looks bishop d2. To me, there is also idea again like to play for rather positional compensation after knight d2. So we castle, we completed development, we are not getting mated, this is for sure. So now we have a main move a3, so checking what we are going to do with the bishop. It goes without saying that if he plays knight a4, we already in time to play d6. I mean in time, so we are not allowing this move d6 that will block our bishop on c8. So we play d6, and even though he has the ideas to attack our bishop and force maybe bishop c5, still this position seems to me favorable for black, as there is no full compensation for the extra pawn. So a3, after a3, I prefer to keep the bishop, because I believe bishop d2 would give quite a decent compensation. It's just game. Let's say rook e1, rook c1, the play goes on. I mean, we definitely, white is going to target c7, probably will play c6, our pawn structure will be one number. I would say it's a more or less balanced position. This kind of compensation, this kind of play for white, I believe fully compensates being pawned down. So bishop a5, it's more, I think like it's more interesting, because we just say we want to keep bishop and just play d6. Not so many resources for white, it's rather d6 is the main idea. D6, cd6, and knight e4. So trying to lock our bishop on c8. I think my recommendation would be just to go and just to free the bishop even in the price of 2 pawns. So to play d5. So at least this is a sure way for equality. I can say take, and once again we are pawn up, but bishop on c8 is pretty badly played. So d6. I like this idea. So at least this is a very clear-cut way for equality. And after bishop g5, it's very important that we have intermediate move bishop e6 that definitely helps to equalize. So yeah, if queen b7, we have queen b6, and the end game is totally fine and probably equal. So this is the line with the knight d2. So a few directions with knight d2. Quite interesting idea. I think once even played by Nakamura, but overall it's easy equality for black if necessary. So now we switch to the most popular move, bishop d2 in this position, and we will start with the rather with bishop d2, which is I don't know statistically whether it's I'm just checking whether bishop d2 is top choice. So but I think like nowadays the more I see knight e4. So bishop d2, knight d2, bishop d2, knight d2, and now like it's very well known. It's hard to imagine that somebody doesn't know the move d5 in this position. So that's the move. E d5, knight d5. Now one of the biggest problems here for black is that in this position after queen b3, it's considered to be that like black has to play knight a5, which is not exactly true. And after knight a5, there is this very well-known repetition. You can find a lot of games with this repetition. And now, however, there is a way for black to continue playing playing like for win. The move is knight e7, strengthening the knight on d5. Usually the play continues castle, and rook e1. So this is the position. I think again it's probably something that I would say pretty balanced. Isolated pawn is compensated by very good activity of the pieces. Definitely c6 is the move. C6 is the move, and this position featured in more than 1,000 games. Overall, I think, again, like as I mentioned before, it's about balance, interesting play. White is very active. Usually, the top choice is knight e4 to play for some kind of initiative. Rook d1, knight a5. So those are the ideas. Black has a few plans here. The main are like knight b6. This featured in the recent game played by a strong Russian player Karjakin. I think it's good enough. I like the move queen b6. So the problem, solving the problem of b7 pawn. So we need to develop the bishop. I think definitely queen b6 is not the move. It was just a mouse sleep, but just to mention that that's not the move to be worried about, because the endgame is probably slightly better for black. Isolated pawn. We know that white probably should try to keep more pieces on the board. So like queen a3 is played on knight c3. But overall, again, as I mentioned before, it's about equal disposition. So why queen b3 is important move for white? I think like after castle, I really like black chances. Black wants already, there is a threat to play knight b6 in this position. I know that the main move is rook c1 in this position, and then knight b6 and bishop b3. So that if we take on d4, obviously c7 is gonna fall. But there is a well-known game, the one that I studied. It's still old, from 2012, by Karjakin. So he played a5, and it seems like black is already about to take over. So one of the points that obviously, if you stop a4 with a4, then b4 is weak. If you go a3, then after a4, bishop a2, knight d4. Eventually, we can take this pawn, and another point. If knight c4 is played in this position, we can already attack black position with the move bishop g4. If I just want to confirm this very quickly. So that's a Karjakin against Rajabov game. Yeah, after knight c4. Yeah, he played bishop g4, because there was another game where black captured first on c4, but bishop g4, and it's a very nice position. Probably already better for black. After capture d5, we have knight a5, and the pin is very annoying. So here's some initiative. Even despite we have ruin pawn structure, we have initiative here. So that's the situation about this line. Obviously, I already mentioned, for those who didn't attend the previous class, it's very harmless. So don't be surprised that I'm prefer always black position, because the way I was analyzing this, it's more about how black can play for win. Nowadays, you can hardly see strong players going for this line. So it's rather, there is another question, how, let's say, to avoid some drawish lines. This is what I was always asked, trying to analyze this line for black. So now, very important to mention, there is move knight e4, which is like very reasonable alternative. So the line goes here after knight e4. We have bishop b4, knight b4, and bishop f7. So well-known line. Now, I want to mention that there is also queen b3 move. with double attack, but we are well prepared for this. So we can play d5, and after queen b4, dc4. And if I remember correctly, black will just play queen d6, preparing castle. Okay, he can take on c4. On the other hand, we can castle, and we can just start playing, targeting isolated pawns. So good, very good position for black. So therefore, mostly you can see here bishop f7, king f7, queen b3 check. Now actually there are two choices for black. I definitely prefer king f8, to be honest. Now after d5, I slightly prefer white position due to the fact that after queen b4. Now I would like to mention that knight a5 looks very tempting, but there is this interesting solution for black. King goes strangely enough to e6, and after queen b4 there is queen f8 move. Very important, because definitely black is not intending to play middle game with the king on e6. So queen f8 forces queen straight, and we are probably heading to pretty much equal endgame. He has strong knight on e5. White, meanwhile, black has a good pawn structure, so king will get to safety on d6. So it's about equal again. Now, therefore, I believe probably queen b4 would be a better choice. Now, after queen b4, rook f8 is probably must played, anticipating knight a5 and preparing a safe spot on g8. Now, after this, we have knight c3. I think we have knight c3. So I checked most of the games went here king g8, knight takes e4, queen c4 check, king h8, knight a5. So that's the line. Black is able to handle knight f7 threat. It's not a big problem. There is even something like queen d6. So that if you play knight f7, first of all, there will be bishop e6, followed by queen b4 check, followed by queen b2. So most probably we'll see castle, bishop e6. I still slightly prefer, to be honest, slightly prefer white position due to the powerful knight on e5, although probably objectively speaking, black should be able to handle equality in some way. So that's another line. Now, now I would like to mention as well, king f8, very important. After queen b4 check, queen e7 forces queen straight. After queen e7, king e7, castle. It's very important to arrange pieces well, because I have seen some games where black didn't know what to do and played, let's say, king f8, and then struggle the whole game. So the very precise move in this position, in my opinion, king d8, and then after rook e1 there is knight f6. So that's very important that knight e5 or knight g5 is easily parried by rook f8. And after knight c3, something like d6, we have a very very complicated but objectively equal endgame. Even though I believe that black can give a shot playing for win, because the pawn structure is imbalanced, and we have also some imbalance in terms of pieces, two knights versus bishop and knight. So that's what I thought. So let's say if my recommendation, for black player who would like to fight for winning this type of in this line, probably would be well, I'm kind of equally I'm debating between, I would debate between endgame, depends on the opponent, between this endgame and playing d5 and knight a7, which is more complicated position, but maybe slightly passive in the beginning. Okay, so we are good with this line, and now finally we switch to something maybe I would say more serious. So there is e5 move, which is in some way it's a latest trend in this position, definitely the most interesting. Nothing to compare with cd4. It's very well known that d5 is practically the only playable move in this position. We cannot really play knight a4, because I think after bishop d5 we are in serious trouble with the knight. So d5 is well known main move. So in this position we have two main moves for white: bishop b5 and bishop e2. Meanwhile, ef6, just to mention that ef6 in this exactly situation is probably not a good idea. After capture and rook g8, I think black supposed to be better. There are games, there are like still 90 games, but the statistics is definitely favors black. So one of the ideas, like, don't be confused that, you know, we cannot castle king side with the rook on g8 and pawn on g7, but queen side castle is easily reachable after bishop e6. Queen is moving somewhere, so that's not exactly a great line. So now bishop e5 will be our main move. So we'll discuss bishop e2. After bishop e2, we have a normal play, normal classical thematic play for this line, which is knight a4, c takes d4, bishop b6. And then lately we can see games with knight c3, castle. So that's the line that white is trying to get advantage nowadays. I remember like very well the game where white played inaccurate in this position, so I can go very quickly over the moves played by Magnus, where he showed like kind of like thematic plans for black. Unfortunately, with the right play, it's probably not achievable. So he played knight e7 in this position. So one of the ideas, castle c6, strengthening d5 pawn plus preparing bishop c7, rook c1, bishop f5, bishop f5 in this position. And so eventually, I remember he delivered f6. He placed the knight on g6, ef6, queen f6, rook a8, and bishop c7, and easily decided the game with the attack on the king side. It was though rapid chess or blitz game even. I'm not sure exactly about this. So, but bishop e3 is definitely inaccuracy. So castle is the main move. Castle is the main move. After castle, f6 nowadays. There are like some. I'm not sure whether it was played in some St. Louis tournament or somewhere, but there are like 4 games played at the same day, or maybe it's actually blitz between Aronian and Nakamura. So and the main move in this position that occurred in these games, like actually in all 4 games, f6 was played. So that definitely it's not the only move, but the point is that after bishop e6, logical move, knight a4, white can try to get the bishop and play with bishop pair, eventually trying to get to benefit from bishop pair. So now after f6, ef6, white black has to capture knight c3 first, bc3, and queen f6. So in order to not to lose the central pawn, I think so. So this is like four games played between Aronian and Nakamura. h3, very strange position. I feel like it should be all right for black, but there is a slight issue with the bishop on b6, which is required some attention. So this is something which is, in my opinion, critical. This position, I would say, to compare with other, like if we compare with the previous lines, this is definitely double-edged and playable for white as well. So, however, I would like to mention that it's very important that after bishop e2 move, there is a very interesting opportunity for black, a rather tactical idea to try d3. Very, very interesting move. After d3, black is forcing white to play ef6 due to the fact that any other move runs into knight g4. So, for instance, if he takes queen d3, knight g4, I think just winning one of the pawns. So this is not good. So ef6 practically forced, and now we have d2, queen e2. So pretty much a forced line. There was a game bishop e6 actually, but I remember so it's actually equally played. I suddenly realized that there is another game, Aronian against Nakamura, where bishop e6 was played. I remember I thought that king f8 is just pretty solid. King f8 with the following line: if bishop g5, probably seems like the most critical move. There is also bishop e3, exchanging this bishop. After bishop e3, we just, let's say we take fg7, so that's one of the games, king g7, fe3, so white was trying to get like f5 for the attack, but actually it appears that black king easily defendable, so that was a game. Queen e7 was played, deflecting the rook from f5 and bishop f5. Bishop is heading to g6. I think black is doing great. Black is better in this position because white cannot get to the king, and positionally e3 is a serious weakness. So bishop g5 probably would be more challenging. I don't think we can take gf6. Bishop h6 looks very dangerous. So therefore, queen d6, castle bishop g4. A fascinating position, very double-edged. I think black is doing pretty well, because there are some like very important trumps in this position. Bishop pair center. Yeah, well, definitely the king is supposed to be vulnerable in the short term, but hopefully this is something that's possible to solve in long run. Okay, so that's another line. Now we go with bishop b5, which is definitely the main move. Knight e4, cd4, bishop b6 would be my recommendation. I don't think it's worth for black to trade bishop b4 because it just helps to develop white queen side pieces. It's kind of like not so important that we take the bishop. The position is kind of pretty close, so I would rather avoid playing this position, even though that we have a lot of games. We have a lot of games played by grandmasters. I guess knight e7 is the move, and it's complicated. I would rather prefer like not to go for this position on the black side, but I think this is slightly better. In my opinion, this type position, but it's definitely, it goes without saying, it's very playable for both sides. Black also has definitely ideas, bishop pair and so on. So after bishop b6, we have nowadays knight c3, top choice. I would like to mention something interesting, that at some point h3 was the main tabia, but there was this very interesting idea played. So we already know one of the ideas is to undermine this powerful pawn. So as you could see from the previous lines, after f6, the main idea for white was to play bishop c6, bc6, and bishop e3. So this played quite often by talented Georgian grandmaster Badur Jabava. I can show you very interesting improvement here that I found, like according to the game, where Jabava beat Kramny. So I think like Kramny came up with very nice opening preparation in this game, but at some point he just didn't play the right move. So f5, queen c1, because f4 is very unpleasant threat. So, and he still played f4. Bishop f4. So people might get confused because white won in this game, but when I checked, it was excellent position for black. c5, that's the idea. So we need to free the bishop from b6 because it was rather like a pawn stuck on b6. Now after dc5, knight c5. So black is getting really active. All pieces playing, light square bishop is very powerful. It goes without saying that knight d3 is the threat. Now after bishop e3, Kramny didn't play the right move. So when I checked, I realized that after knight e6, bishop b6, a b6, it's actually wonderful compensation and rather position with the very serious initiative. Knight f4 is coming. Bishop can join the game from a6. Wonderful position. Now knight c3 is the main move, as I already mentioned. We'll get it from here. Knight c3. It appears that white can allow bishop g4 move. Knight c3. So first black should play castle, of course, and bishop e3. So it appears that bishop g4 is something that possible to allow, but of course we take the opportunity for black and play bishop g4. That's the main move. Yeah, but by serious margin. So now h3, almost like every game on the high level, h3, bishop h5, and queen c2. This is nowadays the main tabia of this line. I would like to mention one very interesting line. So after castle, black at least has forced draw. So that's why obviously on the high level you don't see this move anymore. After knight d4, bishop d4, bishop takes f3. So if queen f3, bishop d4, gf3, queen g5, queen g5 check, queen g5 check, king h1, and very important move, queen f5. Queen f5, and then f e4, queen h3, king g1, bishop d4. And it doesn't seem like there is a way for white to avoid perpetual. So obviously queen d4, queen g4. And so according to my notes, it's just a draw in this position. So therefore you mostly see nowadays queen c2 move. Very interesting line actually. Now with a lot of possibilities, very rich position for both sides. I would say that the main direction nowadays is bishop g6. So the whole idea, wasting time with the queen, was to get rid of the pin. I feel like in this position definitely there are games with knight c3, but knight e7 is the main move. So why to trade? It's unnecessary right now. We can keep a very strong bishop and castle. Castle, that's the main direction. Knight h4 have been played in a few games, as far as I remember. Now the best response here is to play just c5. Well, I would say that c5 is like equalizes quite comfortably, played by Kramnik. So definitely there are other ways like to play c6 and so on. So now after castle c6, so we have this interesting position, bishop d3. Actually white is offering light square bishop. That means that after knight d2, let's say black can get this bishop, but this position appears to be not so easy. Bishop d3, rook e1, and seems like maybe white is better, because I also noticed like strong players prefer to avoid this position for black. So after bishop d3, I would say that the main move is nowadays is knight f5, and rook a1. So, and that's very complicated position, played so far in 2 Grandmaster games. Seems like black overall not so bad after knight e3, rook e3, knight g5, but I think it's a very rich position with a lot of ideas for both sides. So this is our last line for sidelines. We definitely, I didn't expect that it will take so much time. On the other hand, there was it was hard to not to give you like any of those systems. So it was like I found it's very important to cover every line before we switch to the main lines. So now finally we are getting to the topic of the main line, the topic of the lecture, what we're supposed to cover. It's called like slow Italian. So we will talk about d3 move. So after d3, I will kind of like focus on probably three major plans for black. The position is very rich. You can see different ideas. You can see different plans. But we'll do it this way. So we'll cover a6 as a main move. Then d6 will be our alternative, and definitely castle. Right. So so let's start first with d6, the most natural, seemingly most natural move, but you know, one of the ideas for black, that black in many positions trying to get d7, d5 in one move. That's why I think like you can see at the highest level a6 equally played. So after d6, nowadays, well, we are talking about old-fashioned line. So nowadays, at the high level, we can see mostly castle played, leaving bishop on c4. But since we are talking about old-fashioned line, and what is old-fashioned plan here is to play just bishop b3, knight d2, castle, rook e1, knight f1. So we are going to focus on this plan. So now bishop b3, castle probably will be the main move. Now, I would like to mention, besides castle, there is a very interesting move, in my opinion, played by, played in many games, but I noticed mostly after brilliant win of Samuel Shankland against Rauf Mamedov at last Olympiad. So he played a5. Now we have the main direction, which goes knight d2. So what's the idea of a5? We can see, so basically it secures some safe spots for the bishop on c5. So he can go bishop a7, and a5, a4 will come at some point as well. So one of the examples that we can see, this is the game, a5, knight d2 was played, castle. I think now probably h3 supposed to be the main move. Now there is this well-known plan for white to try and save tempo on castle rook e1, just to play knight f1 right away. Then he played bishop e6, knight g3, h6. And now after castle, it's appeared that this move a5 is very useful, because it's in some way fixes the pawn on b3. Otherwise, in many positions in this pawn structure, we have pawn on a6, so white can play b4. So he played just d5 in this position. So that's some kind of like dream position for black. So this is something to strive for. Queen e2, rook e1, and he played. Yeah, I also like strongly recommend this setup for black players. At least like my students, they almost all play bishop f8 idea, which is just one of the plans, but I found this quite easy, because this secures the king side. So we are ready to continue with g6 and secure the position on the king side. So we are not worried about knight f5. I think after knight f5 we can play king h7 and follow up by g6. So that's the plan. Now it's definitely, you know, knight f1 is not the main move. Probably something like h3 would be like more challenging to start with h3. Now we have, for instance, one of the games that I thought it's a good example, bishop e6, bishop c2. So it's much more ambitious play for white to keep light square bishop alive. So d5, now everything is ready for d5. Maybe only h6 is missing, but I don't think white can play knight g5 before castle. So, and there is this game played by Polish prodigy Duda against Sarkisian. So that's a typical unclear double edge position where black was able to deliver d6, d5, but white can put the pressure on the center. So there was rook e1, rook e8. I mean, black started rook e8 definitely, and rook e1 was very complex game. So this is something thematic for this type of position. So definitely a5 is something interesting, and it's definitely recommended to try for black. So now h6, logical move, especially that many players like kind of concerned about bishop g5 idea. So that's probably would eventually transpose to something normal. We can see here just like different plans, a6, rook e8. So this will be covered, I believe, through our main line. But by the way, a5 is still there. a5 still can be played here. So yeah, I think like we'll focus mostly on castle in this position. After castle, the main move is definitely castle. Everyone is always asking about bishop g5, but in most of the situation, it's not really dangerous. So how black should respond after bishop g5? It's h6, bishop h4, g5. g5, we like there are a couple of games with knight g5, but in this position I don't think it's even serious. After knight g5, a g5, bishop g5, probably the most simple response is just tactical bishop f2, with the point that after king f2 we play knight a4, d4, queen g5, so it's equal amount of pawns, and it's pretty safe position for white, for black, I'm sorry. Now, therefore, bishop g3 is the move. Bishop g3 is the move. So we can go knight h5, knight bd2 probably, and I thought to go king g7. It's one of the plans in this type of positions to prepare f5. To prepare f5, black is doing, in my opinion, pretty well here. That's why bishop g5 is not very popular. Now, after castle, I would say that most of the games again featured or a6 or h6. Like a6 is actually like top choice by far. I would like to mention another idea which makes a lot of sense to me, but for some reason it's like not very popular. But bishop b6, like not popular nowadays, although you can see a lot of games, but very strong players. So how the play might continue here? Knight d2 obviously must play. So bishop b6 usually connected with the following maneuver. So that's another thematic idea that you should remember for black. Knight e7, heading to g6, eventually maybe to f4 one day. So the problem, knight c4 is played in this position. After knight c4, knight g6. Knight g6, I think white usually just playing some, I don't know, like a4. There is a4, there is h3. Complicated position. I don't see too many strong players going for this for black nowadays. Probably it's a little bit better chances. I think it makes also a perfect sense to provoke c6, because there is no other way to solve the problem, and then to take on b6, so the pawn structure is a little bit more vulnerable after this. But it's actually it's a very common idea to give up this bishop, so it's not really big deal, and white can just slowly continue and trying to prepare d4. So I would rather say that white chance is slightly preferable in this line, even though like the position definitely very playable. So now, so we discussed h6. Now very important to mention castle. So the idea of castle is to trying to deliver d7 d5. Well, it's kind of, in some way it's a flexible move, because well definitely black can still switch to d6, but there is an idea to explore d5 opportunities. So here, for example, like bishop b3, I wouldn't recommend bishop b3, because this runs right away into d5, and black is doing great. Now, so castle makes a perfect sense here. Now again, so here bishop g5 maybe makes more sense. At least it was played by I know the game of Kramnik, and definitely, yeah, well, also there is a well-known game of Vishy Anand played against, so it's a classical game played against Marcus Rager. So I guess the point that now if you go for g5, there will be the opportunity for white still to castle queenside. On the other hand, black, since black didn't commit for d5 or for d6 move, I'm sorry, black can still go bishop e7 and in some way comfortably to neutralize this pin. Knight d2 d6, very complicated position. I think actually black's supposed to be all right, even though the statistics kind of okay for white. I would say pretty positive on the high level, with the like very strange moves tried. Like it's actually castle is very rare here, but white is rather trying a4. So this is what Anand played, and Kramnik played in this position bishop b3. So I guess the idea to stay flexible, For instance, Vichy tried remarkable idea after knight h5, which one of the plans, like get rid of these bishops. He tried g3, shocking move, but worked very well in the game, and it was a nice positional win for white. So bishop g5 is very interesting. I think like this position is still playable for both sides. Now, castle would be our main move. Castle would be our main move, and now again, like so that's a big choice, and it's, as far as I see, well, slightly more popular d6, but that will be just a normal line with bishop b3 and so on. That will be covered. We already checked for different move order. Now after d5, d5 is very popular as well. D5 is very popular as well. We have a lot of games, even recently, like one of the very recent games, Anish Giri against Hare Krishna. That's I think actually Black was able to solve the problems, but then Giri showed a great technique. So e5, knight d5. So this line. So what's going on here? Usually white is trying to put the pressure in the center. Black's idea just to neutralize, to consolidate the position. If black consolidates and e5 without any concession, black even can take over. So here I see well, two main ideas. One move is rook e1, which is the most natural response. Now a lot of games featured a4. I would say this is something which is like modern treatment of this position. To insert a4, usually it runs into a5 because there is a idea b4, so bishop cannot go to b6, will be trapped with a5. After a5 there is knight d2. There are a lot of games here, very, very concrete position. Now I don't see too much difference, to be honest. Like it's already nuances at the very high level. So after rook e1, we have bishop g4. The pin is very important because otherwise it's very there is no convenient way to defend the pawn. I would like to mention a couple of ideas, like for instance, after rook e8, there is a well-known tactical trick d4. So the pawn is untouchable because bishop on d5 is hanging. Now f6 weakening too much. I think probably, well, still d4 would be strong. There is queen b3, so it's very risky move. Therefore, bishop g4 probably must play it, and after bishop g4, knight d2. So that's the main theoretical tabia in this line with a lot of games. I mean, still knight b6 by far top choice, and bishop bishop b5 is one move, but which is like top choice. But as far as I understand, after bishop d6, black is doing pretty well on the high level. So therefore, this recent game that I mentioned actually featured h3. I guess knight c4 runs into knight c4 and e5 is hanging. So, and after bishop h5, Giri, Anish Giri played bishop b3 in this position. Bishop b3, and it's appeared that I want 1 second to get to this game. H3, bishop h5, bishop. Yeah, I got a little bit confused. 1 second. Yeah, I think so. What happened? Yes. So what happened? They eventually heading into the endgame. Bishop b3, knight a5, bishop d1, knight d3, bishop b3, a b3, and it's appeared somehow that white has a slight pull. I think it probably should be in some way holdable, but that was a very classical win for white, like with slight pull. So you can see once again that why I had a lot of respect to the move like a5 in the beginning, so that not allowing after bishop b3, a b3 to play b4 and squeeze some space on the queen side. So as usual, I know it's very important. We have only 9 minutes left, and I think maybe it's time to move to Q&A question. We again slightly lagging. I mean, I know this perfectly, but it's I think we are going to catch up. That's my hope. We are going to catch up at some point. Now, next class, I'll try to cover this old-fashioned variation, so we still didn't get to the main lines, plus show you the modern idea where white is keeping his bishop on c4 and just playing a4, and which is the main reason why Italian nowadays is very popular at the high level. So I guess we'll go for Q&A question right now.
Yeah, I guess it's been a pretty intense class, like always. A lot of participation and yes, non-stop action. So I guess we don't have many questions today. I'm rather surprised. One question I have, Boris, it says how to use the chess opening encyclopedia of chess base. I have it, but don't know exactly how to use it. Please help.
Well, to be honest, I mean, for me, this is like kind of old. It's not old, but it's old-fashioned source, and I have never like. I remember we had maybe like opening an encyclopedia. I remember as a book, some like maybe 25 years that I try to like to work with, but not nowadays. It seems to me kind of like I don't know even how to say that, just maybe not the right way to study, especially at your level, so that means you don't have any comments as far as I understand. It's just like pure lines. It's just pure lines, and you don't really study. Maybe like Grandmaster at the high level, but they can study because they know all the ideas. But at your level, I would rather try to find sources where something explained, like books, or I mentioned a few times there is a modern chess source. It's very advanced level of openings. So something where you can find some explanation and not just variation, a bunch of variations. Probably went through some engine, I guess. It's just like I think it's still too early to study this way. So definitely something where somebody explains, even like even a video, some videos with the openings would be much better, even though like you'll have to transfer this into chess-based files. I guess that's the issue, but not my priority source, I would say, encyclopedia. So please try to find something more for your level.
Of course, right. Thanks for that very, very valuable input, Boris. The next question we have got is how to avoid Berlin Marshall. That's a question we got from Sandeep Nagare.
To avoid Berlin Marshall. Well, I mean, I guess it's two different openings. So avoiding Berlin, I mean, what is used at the high level is this line that we cover. So Italian. That's why it's very popular. And the very reason why it's popular is that especially at the high level, they all played Berlin. So, and really it was very hard to crack Berlin. Kasparov knows this very well, who suffered in the match. So that's why Italian. So, or you play, or you have Italian, you have also definitely some sideline. Well, Berlin, you can, let's say, I mean, I know Berlin is very good opening, but I wouldn't say until you get to 2700 level, it's super playable. Also there is super playable. You can see a lot of ideas. If you don't like to play endgame, you can play anti-Berlin. So we will get to this at some point. You can play d3. You can play with all the pieces, d3, c3. Similar, by the way, similar to Italian. So it's not a problem. With Marshall, you have you don't play. Let's say you don't play c3, the main line. A bunch of different options nowadays. There is like d3, Rui Lopez. There is a4 Rui Lopez. There is early d4 Rui Lopez. You can see even it's, by the way, at the highest level, at the top level, they also tend to avoid Marshall. So if you just open recent games at the top level, for instance, I saw yesterday Nakamura played against Dean Cluren at the Rapid Chess, so he played early d4. So there are like, I think, maybe like 5 reasonable ideas to avoid Marshall.
Okay, another question. I'm not pretty sure whether 4 minutes would be enough to answer. Is it better Rui Lopez? Can you
Hello?
hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I think like the picture is stuck. So what is another question?
It says, is Queen E2 better against Rui Lopez?
I mean, it's a reasonable line, but it's a sideline. Queen E2, it's a reasonable line. Again, I have a student who is playing this, and let's put it this way, until some level of 2200, 2300, it would work amazing. Now, once you get to this level against the players who are able to prepare, who are able to check some books, to see some Grandmaster games, to do some home preparation, will be very difficult to get advantage. But it's a very playable line. Let's put it this way. Just like with the precise play from Black, it's pretty much easy equality, I would say. But I guess we are not talking about level 2300, so you can definitely play.
Okay, so next question again, it would probably be taking more time, but yeah, we have only 3 minutes left, girls and boys. Can you please suggest some good Sicilian lines? That's the question.
Well, any Sicilian line is good. It's just the problem of Sicilian, you should understand, like before you start studying this, the price of every move in Sicilian is very high. Just one inaccurate move and you might get crushed. You might get under attack and there will be no way back. And sometimes even in my experience, I had games, to be honest, that even not so much fight. I just committed some mistake in the opening and I just felt like I didn't get a chance even to fight against the guy because he tricked me in the opening, and I mean it was pretty much one-sided. So we are talking well, you know, Najdorf. It's probably the main the cornerstone of the Sicilian, I would say, and it's very good. It's very good. At the same time, it's super popular. It's super popular. It's probably top choice overall, like among all the openings, especially before we get it to very top level. I guess at the top level, maybe E5 is more popular because they tend to play solid, and draw is very good result for Black. But you have Najdorf, which requires a ton of theory, a ton of knowledge, but very rich play, very nice. So again, like the question, if you are able to study, it's very hard to study. I think like you need guidance, you need some very good material, you need maybe coach to explain. It's like if you feel like you're not very experienced in the openings, I wouldn't recommend. It's a very tough opening. Like the same applies to Dragon, though, like maybe even more dangerous. I think like there are some like very dangerous line nowadays that I'm not sure if Black has solution, but it's very interesting. So what else you have? You have all these systems were connected with like E6 lines, which is Pulse and Taimanov. They're all very interesting, in some way dangerous, again, like every Sicilian, but a lot of play. So I mean, there is second move E6, and then you play after D4, CD4, knight D4. You can play A6, or you can play knight C6 followed by Queen C7. There are those two directions. Again, very playable. I want to say, I would say like maybe rather Dragon is a little bit dangerous nowadays. All the rest is just a lot of play. There is no refutation whatsoever. I'm not aware of any line where like Black cannot handle. So everywhere a lot of play. I also would like to mention there is one more system which is actually getting nowadays more and more popular. It's called, there are like different names. Some people call it browser. Some people call it like classical Sicilian even. Some people call it like 4 knights. So where you go D6, knight F6 and knight C6. So instead of knight of A6, you play knight C6. This is the line where you can kind of like if you really want to play Sicilian, maybe you can pay attention to the rouser, because what is happening in the rouser to compare with like neither, where white potentially can challenge black in maybe 6 systems at least. So here the most challenging bishop g5, and all the rest is kind of easy to handle, like with good knowledge, obviously. So there is only one line, one critical line, bishop g5, and this is the challenge, and definitely something that you need to find a good source how to study. So that might be interesting. So I would rather think like Najdorf and Rouser. Najdorf and Rouser are the like would be my top 2 choices if you really want to study, and the rest. Oh well, obviously I totally forgot. There is this one which is Carlsen playing, Sveshnikov. He plays, and he's obviously having a wonderful results, but it's because he's Carlsen. For me personally, Sveshnikov didn't work because I thought it's too positional, and I was unable to win because I thought like if I play Sicilian, I need to win. So for me, it was hard. I feel like it's Sicilian, but at the same time, it's very positional. But it's definitely like nobody is able to crack, nobody is able to get any advantage against him. So that's definitely another choice. And one more thing, Accelerated Dragon. I'm not a big fan of Accelerated Dragon, but there is a recent book. On Accelerated Dragon written by one of the Carlsen seconds, Peter Heine Nielsen, and somebody else. So that's opening. Also, in my taste, it's too positional. I guess you want sharp play when you choose Sicilian, but something which is definitely playable and worth to check. Yeah, so it was, I guess, comprehensive answer, right?
Of course, all your answers are super duper comprehensive, and Boris, we really appreciate. And I want to say this, I'll take only 1 more minute. I really want to say this, and I think people out there agree. The energy that you bring to the session is explosive, you know. It was like 8 o'clock. I was like wondering, it's been a long day, but you know, I just listened and it's like, okay, a lot of fire, you know, going on. Amazing. Thank you so much for all your effort.
Thank you. Thank you for moderating. As always, pleasure. Thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to see another session next week.
Likewise, Boris. And girls and boys, those of you who are joining the Dejan Bochkov session tonight at 9:30 p.m. Indian time, just go take a quick break, take a quick shower, have some meals, and be back at 9:30 p.m. Those of you who have not signed up yet, monthly pass you can still take. Contact us in the next 30 minutes, okay? So see you next week. Until then, take care. God bless, and please take very good care of yourself. Thank you. Goodbye. Thank you.
Have a good night, guys. Have a good night. Bye-bye.